If you're intuitive and you feel exhausted all the time, then this episode's for you. There's a reason why your energy drains faster than other people's. And it's not necessarily because you're doing something wrong, but just that you need to learn how to do something differently. So we are going to dive into that today. Most intuitive people really are not tired because they're doing too much. They're just tired because they're taking in too much energy, too much emotion. They're absorbing too much. And they often do it without even realizing it. And once you understand what's actually happening inside of your system, everything will start to make more sense because intuition isn't um, isn't happening because you're pushing hard. It's using your energy, and you have to be more mindful of your energy. And today, I want to talk about why intuitive people are feeling depleted and how you can care for yourself and for your energy in a way that supports you instead of asking you to shut down or disconnect or make things harder. Because intuition is our connection to spirit, and that's actually where spirit meets real life.
So self-service, that's the way. Welcome to Soul Talk, shine today.
Welcome to Soul Talk, friends, where spirit meets real life. And this is a place for honest conversations, awareness, and really learning how to live into both your intuition and your humanity and how to keep them intact. I'm Dawn Johnston, and I am really glad that you're here with me today. So today, friends, we are talking about energy. And energy, one of the most important things. Without energy, we cannot create, we cannot live, we cannot do all that we desire to do and experience and create in this physical journey. So we're not talking productivity or motivation or burnout, but I am talking about that tiredness that so many people I have been listening to, so many of my clients have been talking. I just feel so exhausted. My energy, I just don't feel like I have any energy. And they feel like even when they're resting, and I wonder if this is true for you, even when you're resting, you feel like that level of tiredness just doesn't go away. And I think it's something that a lot of intuitive people experience until you start to understand why that's happening. And then we can actually start to shift it. So get out of that frustration and that confusion and the discouraging vibe that brings up. Because when you are a sensitive person, you feel things more deeply. And you as an intuitive, you're not just processing information. You are feeling information, and you're feeling tone, and you're feeling emotion, and you're sensing not just what's being said, but what's not being said. And you start to be so aware of the energy around you, right? The people and where they're at, how they're feeling, what their mood is, the environments. You can walk into a room and feel a density or feel a heightened energy. And your system is in a constant listening and observing place. And that aspect of sensitivity is really a gift. But what it also means is that your nervous system is staying engaged, and it's staying engaged much longer than you realize for a variety of reasons that you may not understand. And it's great that we have that ability, but we have to learn how to be the observers of the energy, the witness of the energy, and not the absorbers of that energy. Because over time, that constant engagement starts to build up and build up and build up, and it starts to exhaust you. And so if you are somebody that is sensitive and right now you recognize that you feel overwhelmed, you feel like you don't have the energy to do the things that you want to do, you're struggling with maybe illness or diagnosis or things like that. Uh, Oftentimes, and I've recognized this in myself, and then throughout my career, I have experienced so many clients that have come to me that are struggling with that not being able to observe energy, but instead they absorb the energy. And, it's challenging because as sensitives, we want to be there and we want to support people. And we don't always know how to find that fine line between taking care of ourselves, taking care of our energy, our health and well being, and then also honoring the energy of other people and where they are and what they're doing and what they need. And so, you know, uh, this is a struggle for me. This has been a lifetime uh, uh, opportunity for growth for me. And I started out as one of those people, like many of you, that I was always absorbing people's energy. I could feel their emotion, their sadness, their grief. I could feel the density in their body. I could feel their emotional pain. And from a a science perspective, from a nervous system perspective, intuitive people are often living in like this low level of awareness and attunement. So they're not necessarily in like the extreme of the panic or the anxiousness or the fight or flight, but they have this constant stream of awareness. And I'm wondering if that resonates with you. It's just this constant stream. It feels like it never turns off. Actually, I even have clients that say, "How do I stop it? How do I turn it off? I want to disconnect from it." But what's happening is that consistent awareness is really your brain subtly scanning, sensing, responding. And that takes resources from our body, right? It takes focus, it takes oxygen, it takes glucose. So when you're like, well, I don't know why my body's so tired. Well, there's actually a reason because if you're always in that state of scanning energy, then you're working harder than what it might look like to most people. And I think that one of the most important things that I could teach to you is that that energy of intuitive exhaustion, let's call it, that isn't always about giving too much of your energy. It's about not cleaning up the energy leaks that you have. It's not, and it's also a recognition of not coming back to yourself once you give that energy. So it's getting us grounded, it's getting us centered, and filling ourselves up. And when you are an intuitive person and a sensitive person, I think it hits you in a way that you just don't recognize that that's what's happening until you're in the cycle of feeling the depletion, let's say. So those energy leaks, when we stay open all the time, which intuitive people naturally are, then we experience energy leaks. And when we hold space for people, but we don't ground ourselves, we feel those energy leaks. When we are tuning into the environment and the energy around us, but we're not tuning in and checking in with the energy within us, we can have those energy leaks. So that tiredness, that heaviness, um, that density is really as much about the maybe giving of so much energy, but it also is about the fact that your system has not learned how to stop the leaks. And there's so many different things that we can do, friends, to learn to manage, to learn to maintain our energy. And these are lifelong practices. They are things that we have to do consistently over and over and over again. Not because um not because we're not safe in our own energy and our own vibration, but because we need and want and deserve the help that our spirit team can actually support us in. And we also have to learn how to honor ourselves and honor our energy. And like I said, this is a life journey for me. So, what I think is true for most people, and ask yourself this, is that I think a lot of intuitive people can get frustrated or even discouraged because they take the time to rest and they do their best to unplug and they sleep, and then they still feel that kind of drained energy. And I think that's because the rest and the sleep is helping the body, but the energy field, right? This energy field that's around us, it needs something different. It needs an ongoing um, maintenance process. So not just recovering, catching up with your sleep, taking a little nap, things like that. That's for the body, but we need it for the energy field. Now, one of the things that I have learned, and I want to be really clear on, is that I'm talking about a maintaining of your energy field, not protecting yourself from everybody out there. Okay, and I'm gonna give you a little bit of a distinction into the way that I see these two things. And if you are somebody that's listening right now, and you've been somebody who was taught to protect yourself, then I want to invite you into seeing things from a little bit different perspective that could open up some possibilities for you in shifting your energy into more of an energy of openness than closed. So when we think about maintaining our energy versus protecting our energy, I want you to just tune in to yourself and to your body. And if you're live, please feel free to throw this in the chat. Does that feel different? Maintaining your energy versus protecting your energy. Which one feels more open? Which one do you feel more connected with? Which one feels lighter in your body? And I know for me, I was taught 42 years ago now to protect my energy. And I was taught to call in Archangel Michael, the angel of protection, guidance, strength, and courage, and to ask him to help me to protect my energy so I didn't absorb the energy of others. Right. And so I had this whole process that I went through. And some of you may have the same exact experience. You do this whole process of protecting your energy to keep yourself safe. But what I've learned since, and what never felt right to me, but I didn't have an alternative. I didn't know what else to do until probably about 20 years ago, when I was really sitting with the energy of protection. And what I felt like is when I felt protection in my body, it felt tight. and it felt tense. And I feel like I was bracing, like my nervous system was like bracing. And that didn't feel like the energy of flow. It didn't feel like the energy of ease or peace or safety. It felt fear-based. It felt scary. And what I've recognized is that what intuitive people need is to learn to maintain their energy. Now, when I say what intuitive people need, here's the thing. Everybody is intuitive on some level, but I'm talking about people that are consciously aware of their intuition. Okay? And what we need is we need to maintain our energy. Our um, um, energetic maintenance of our field. Because maintenance is gentle and it is soft and it is consistent and it is open and it is responsive. And just like we would do things to take care of our physical bodies, our energy needs those same things. It needs consistency, not just when things feel wrong, but all of the time as part of your practice. I call it part of my spiritual practice. So let's talk a little bit about the difference between protecting energy and maintaining energy. So the first thing is feel into your body what it feels like protection, and just notice what happens in your body. Now, I like to use this as a visual. And so if you are not live on our video podcast, then you will need to imagine this. But I want you to imagine that your hands are just out straight in front of you, up as if you're like blocking something. That is the energy of protection. It's like my job is to keep all of the energy out, the negativity out, the fear out, the worry out. My job is to push all of that out. So when we're in the energy of protection, there is a need, there is a feeling that we are that it's everybody else against me, so to speak. I got to keep all the noise out. I got to keep the people out. I got to keep the world out. I got to keep those bad people over there out. And maybe if you're like me and the way that I was trained, like if I was getting ready to go to a concert or go to the mall or go even to the store, I'd be like, okay, I need to get my little bubble and I need to protect myself so I don't absorb the energy of all those people out there. Now, at this time in the world, maybe you feel that way. But the reality of it is those people out there are the same people as those people in here. And it's not our job to push away and push against. And I don't even think it's possible. I don't think it's possible for us to keep everybody's energy out of our space. I think that it is highly unlikely that we can control everyone else's energy. But what we can do, now here's the difference. Instead of protecting, hands out in front, block. Instead of protecting ourselves from all the people, all the badness, all the heaviness, all the density, all the fear, whatever it is. Instead, what we do is we keep our hands out just like they were, but now turn your hands in towards you. And now what I do is I maintain my energy field. I maintain this field around me, right? It extends out probably about as far out as your arms go and all the way around. So, this maintaining of energy, that I can control what I think, what I feel, what I look at, what I listen to, what I watch, what I eat, what I drink. Like I do have choice there. I do have the ability to control those things. I may not always do a great job at it, but I have the ability. So I want you to think about that difference in keeping everybody out and how much effort does it take to keep everybody's energy out of your field versus keeping your own energy in your field. And this is one of the biggest shifts for intuitive people to learn is it is our responsibility our responsibility. We don't get to blame this on everybody else. We don't get to blame it on the world. We don't get to blame it on the systems. We don't get to blame it on the governments. We don't get to blame it on the churches. It is everyone's personal responsibility to maintain their own energy, their own frequency, their own vibration. It costs you nothing, except for it costs you everything when you don't. Maintaining your own energy. One of the most important tools and the fastest ways to re-energize yourself. One of the fastest ways to lose your energy is not maintaining your energy. Now, one of the other things that we can do, and I think that is very important in learning how to maintain our energy, and I'm going to give you some tools on how to do this, um, is to make sure that you are grounded. Ground yourself before you give so much out to the world. Because most of us, our nature, our tendency is to reach outward, is to connect, is to support, is to respond. But our energy needs a foundation. And what the energy of grounding does is it really calms our nervous system. It just says, I'm present, I'm aware, I know you need something, um, I'm supported, I'm okay. And that creates the safety that otherwise we are looking for that we don't have. And you don't have to give your energy away all the time. You just don't. But we don't necessarily know that. So if we at least ground ourselves, we're more present in the choices and the decisions that we are making and how we are putting our energy out there, what we are taking into our container. Because we don't have to be willing and open to everything. You don't have to absorb and take on the energy of every person around you. You don't have to absorb and take on the energy of what's being shown on the news or TV shows or music or events that are happening. You don't have to. Is it your nature? Likely? Yes. But you can be an observer. You can notice without absorbing. And um, you can care about other people and circumstances and situations without carrying that energy. Okay. This is so critical for people that are intuitive, that are feeling depleted and feeling like they're losing their energy. And you don't, one of the ways I think that we've done, I know I have, and maybe you relate, is we just shut down. We just disconnect, shut down, separate, isolate so that you can finally fill yourself back up. We don't need to do it that way. It's not the healthy way to do it. All right. What we want to learn, and we want to become more um, uh, energetically aware, is that it's our job as the container, the body, the mind. It is our job to keep our energy sacred and safe and in alignment and open. And the energy that you are wanting to come in through your body, you are wanting to be um, the highest energy that you can access. And when you are absorbing the energy of other people, you are not accessing the highest frequencies. You're accessing lower frequencies, fears, worries, drama, pain, hate, sadness, division, separation. That's not a high frequency, that's a low frequency. And if you are carrying that energy, then the way that you are going to be able to clear that energy, and the best way that energy will respond to that, is consistency. Consistency. Small steps every single day where you begin to learn to manage and maintain your energy and let yourself come back to yourself consistently, one step at a time. So, what are some of the things that you can do to manage and maintain your energy? We're going to talk about those in just a moment. But before we go any further, I'm going to pause here for just a moment and share with you something that I think actually would directly affect you right here, right now, which is a free webinar that I have coming up. So if you know that you are intuitive, but you are finding yourself second guessing yourself, questioning what it is you receive, then I want to invite you to a special webinar that I'm having on February 24th. I'm teaching the free class called Unlock Your Gifts. It is a grounded way to deepen your intuition and actually use your intuition in your everyday life. So this isn't necessarily about, running away from your life. What it is about trusting your guidance, knowing that your next step, what that is, and feeling confident in the steps that you're taking to move forward. So we will meet live online. And if you can't attend, then you can still watch the replay. The link, we're going to throw that down below, schooloflight.biz/webinar. I would love to have you join us. All right, friends. So welcome back. Let's talk about how we can maintain our energy. What tools can we use to be consistent in our practice so that we don't get so depleted? And also some ways to really um, reset our energy. So, first off, if you don't absorb the energy in the first place, then you don't have anything that you need to release, right? So, if you are sitting in a beautiful protective bubble, so to speak, where you are really taking care of managing your own energy and you're just a witness, you're just observing the energy around you, you're noticing what's happening, but you're not taking it on, then you don't need to do anything to get rid of energy that you've taken on because you haven't taken any on. But if you are not doing that, which is the majority of people, then we need to do something different. So, first and foremost, as a consistent spiritual practice, as part of your day to day practice, what has worked so well for me, really been life changing on 1,000 different levels, is calling in, inviting in, invoking Archangel Michael. So Archangel Michael, many of you know, is the angel of is the angel of protection, guidance, strength, and courage. Yes, we use the term protection because that is the term that people use. Like he's on police badges. You'll see the electric blue sword. That is the sword of protection. So that is the term that is used most often in connection with Michael. And so inviting Archangel Michael's energy in consistently, for me, that means every single day. I call in Archangel Michael's energy and I ask him to be with me, not from a state of protection. And this is what's different, not from a state of protection, but from a place of helping me to manage and maintain my energy so I don't absorb the energy of the people around me, good or bad, helpful or not helpful. I don't need, if I recognize that I am a sovereign being in charge of my own energy, then I don't need to take on people's good stuff and I don't need to take on people's hard stuff. It's not my responsibility. It's not my job, right? And that's a little bit difficult for people, especially if you are somebody who has a tendency to get in the middle of everything. Everybody comes to you. You're a natural counselor. Maybe you are a therapist or a counselor. Maybe you're a hairdresser. Maybe you're a bartender. Those are some areas. Maybe you're a mother. Those are some areas where people tend to come to you and then you absorb the energy and take it on. And then you can't stop thinking about it. You can't stop feeling about it. You're more emotional than you were beforehand. And so what we can do to shift that is to have a consistent practice. And so calling in Archangel Michael for me every single morning, calling in Michael and inviting Michael to come in to help me to be the observer and to be the witness and to not take on the energy of others. Now, the visual that I like to do with that is I do visualize like a big blue bubble around me. Why blue? Blue is the color that represents Michael's frequency. And so I like to use the visualization of stepping into that blue bubble. So it's completely surrounding my entire physical body. And what it's doing is it's creating the energy that I have, my responsibility. It's like encapsulating that energy. So I know where I end and other people begin energetically, right? So I can feel it, I can sense it, I can know that energy. So when I call in Michael and I ask him to help me to manage and maintain my energy so I don't absorb the energy of others, I'm able to then witness from a place of love instead of from a place of fear, because I know I don't have to carry and that I'm not going to carry the energy, the heaviness, and the density of that particular person or situation or circumstance. Okay. So, first and foremost is for me is inviting Archangel Michael. Now, if you aren't connected to angels and you're like, why can't I just go to God? You can. So you can do that as well. Oh, why can't I just ask my spirit guides? You can. There's not a right or wrong. It's just more of preference. But what I would say is the only wrong is not doing it. Do something that gives you a consistent daily practice that acknowledges your power and your ability to manage and maintain your own energy. Whatever that looks like, whatever words you use, that's up to you. Now, if you are somebody that has absorbed energy, that you have taken on energy, then you may need to do a an energetic reset. And if you find that that is you, then it's there's different ways to do it. One of the ways you can do an energetic reset is actually just by taking a slow, deep breath in. And as you exhale, just imagine your energy coming back into your body and settling in your body, making a statement. I call my energy back, or I release any energy that is not mine or not for my highest good. Okay, so that can be just a reclamation of your energy. Now, something else that you can do is you can you can clear a space, right? You can bring in sage or sandalwood or palo santo or incense or bells or drums or chimes or bowls, and you can allow the frequency, the vibration of those things to shift, transmute, raise that energy. So that can also be another reset. Another one that you can do is you can use some sort of, if you're not, like I used to sage and use Palo Santo a lot, and I loved that. But then the more sensitive I became, the older I got, the more sensitive I've become to smell and specifically to smoke as well. And so I created I don't have it sitting here, darn it. I took it in the other room, I guess. I created oh, maybe it's right here. I created essential oil that actually has sage. It's called Vibe Razor, VIBE razor, let's just be clear, but it's called Vibe Razor, and it has sage and orange in it. So it's got the essential oil, sage, so that doesn't bother me. Generally, natural scents are okay. So the essential oil, sage, and then also some orange that raises that vibration. So it's clearing space and then bringing in a higher frequency. So for me, this is something that I would use to clear the space. But you can use any of those things, and this is fantastic. Any of those tools are fantastic to start to reclaim your energy, to be intentional of, okay, I release any energy that is in this space that is not for my highest and greatest good, and open the door to allowing clear, grounded, centered, healthy energy in. Now, some people might be like, okay, well, this is a little bit judgmental that you're saying, okay, well, maybe this energy isn't good or bad or whatever it happens to be. um, it's not judgment, it's feeling. If you sense that the energy feels dense to you, then it is dense to you. It's not a judgment of other people. You just feel the density of it. And it's just an acknowledgement of what you need to do to take care of you. All right. At this time in the world, with everything that's happening in the world and how loud the world is, emotions are moving very fast. I'm certain that you guys recognize this. Emotions are fast. People are quick to anger, quick to rage. There's lots of reactivity. There's a lot of energy to feel. And intuitive people, sensitive people, they generally feel this first. And so if you are somebody that is very sensitive, then you're feeling this, which means you're carrying um, for an energy that 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 you're not even conscious of, and that it doesn't even feel optional to you. It just feels like, yes, this is what I have to do because this is how it is, and that's not true. You do not have to, but you will need to learn tools to be able to be consistent in holding your energy and being in the light and shining a light and not taking that energy on. Because when you start to maintain your energy, and I know many of you that are watching this now, especially those of you that have been students and clients of mine for years, how much change has happened in your life when you started managing your energy. And you probably see little pockets of times where you're really consistent and then you weren't, and then you were, and then you weren't. Notice what was going on in your life during those times when you were. I bet you had more grace, more ease, more presence, more awareness, more connection, more signs and symbols and messages from the spirit world because you weren't being weighed down by the density, right? When you manage and maintain your energy, when you are tending your energy, your intuition is going to be much clearer. It's going to be so much easier to make decisions. Your boundaries, even though it might be hard from the human part of you, your boundaries are going to feel more natural. Like this is what's necessary, and even a little bit what I would say is neutral. Like not, I don't want to cause harm. I'm not wanting to punish anybody. This is just taking care of myself. And the compassion that you have, which we need compassion. I think part of what's happening in the world, even though this seems counterintuitive, is to help us to create more compassion. And the more aware you become and the more in tune you become and the less judgmental and critical you become, the more compassion you have. And compassion, when you have a compassionate heart, sometimes that can feel draining, and w- and and it will feel like, you know, I don't know, like you like almost like your sensitivity is a problem. I used to think my sensitivity was a curse, not a gift, and everybody said, oh, this is such a gift, and I'm like, oh, it doesn't feel like a gift. So you stop feeling like it's like that sensitivity is a liability, and you start remembering that it is a gift. It is a spiritual gift. It is a strength for you, and 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 that it just needs extra support. And you're the one that needs to support it. Nobody else. It's no one else's job to take care of your energy but you. Now, we can be upset, we can be mad, we can be angry about the fact that there are people out there that are taking advantage of sensitive people and sensitive energies. And absolutely, that happens. And we each have the ability and the responsibility and the power to reclaim our energy and to take our energy, our life force energy, and to take it back. And so, my hope is that as we focus more on why we're being depleted in the first place, and you have to take some responsibility in what you're bringing into your container, this beautiful body, the vehicle that you chose, that your spirit chose to experience this human life in. It's our responsibility what we're putting in it. What are you consuming? What are you consuming with your eyes? What are you watching? Right? What are you reading? What are you consuming with your ears? What are you listening to? What stories are you listening to? What um, what drama are you listening to? What music are you listening to? Like, what are you bringing in through your eyes and your ears? What are you eating? What are you drinking? What environments are you putting yourself in that then expose you to particular energies? And maybe you've been somebody who has done that and done it unconsciously. And if that's the case, it's time to shift it. It's time to shift it. If you want to call your energy back, if you want to start feeling like you have energy, if you want to stop being depleted, like the topic of this podcast is why intuitive people feel so depleted, so tired all the time. And it's because we are losing our energy unconsciously. Now, maybe some of you are conscious of it and you know now, and maybe you knew before, but you didn't know what to do. And I hope that this podcast has brought some information and some insight to you about this. So let's dive in. I now want to open the space for our heart to heart. So this is a place where we talk about real questions that people are carrying about life, relationships, heart, spirit, boundaries, intuition, energy, everything in between. And so we're inviting you to ask your questions. So be sure that you hit the request live call. If you want to ask me a question live right here online, you can ask it about the topic that we had today, or you can ask about anything else, so that you have the opportunity to really bring in the energy of where you're being challenged right now. So let's kick off that.
Too hard with Sunday. Hear your voices heard. Songs or conversations. Life in every word. Bring your questions, bring your truth. We're here to explore. Heart to heart with Sunday. Open up the door.
All right, friends. So it's heart to heart with Sunny time. I'm going to invite you to go ahead and ask your questions. If you are joining me live in the chat, you can go ahead and ask your question in there. And if you want to actually call in your question, then hit that live request button. So you can come on live with me. And otherwise, we also have a couple of questions that were sent in, which you can always send in your questions in advance. So here's the first question that I have while I wait to see if anybody else has any questions. So the first question was, I need help rebuilding my life and having a strong voice in the world. I am ready for no more. This ends with me. And I love that. I love that statement. I love that you are ready to be done with the way that life has been, likely the way that you have been trained by life and by the experiences and the people around you. So I love that for you. When you're rebuilding your life, I did this myself, and so I understand the difficulty around it, and I also understand the opportunity around it. And you say, and I want to have a strong voice in the world, which is usually we can recognize uh, an area where we haven't had our voice, whether somebody didn't allow us to have a voice, whether there were people that tried to take our voice from us, or at least just silence us, right? And so I think that when you're rebuilding your life, it starts from the inside out. It starts from connecting within yourself. To me, that was connecting with spirit, source, creator, angels, God, Jesus, whatever that feeling feels like to you, whatever you call that. And so that's where it started with me. I needed to rebuild my life, and I couldn't rebuild it externally first because I didn't have the value of myself internally. And if you are somebody who has been silenced and been quieted and been shut down and you don't feel like you've had a voice in the world, then it's going to be really difficult if you start outside of yourself. We have to start inside. So creating that connection. I think that support is very important, whether you have a therapist or an energy worker or a community that you can feel connected to, that can provide for you different perspective, different ways of seeing things. I think that the things that make us different are the things that we really can step into. I think it's what makes this world go round. I think it's what makes humanity beautiful is not just staying in your own little circle with everybody that's going to agree with everything that you say and see exactly the way that you see it. I think that we're meant to be diverse. We're meant to be different. We're meant to bring different perspectives. And unfortunately, when you are learning how to rebuild your life, and maybe you don't have a lot of foundation of how to do that, a lot of people will do that externally, and then they struggle to do it because they look at the people around them, and if the people around them say, oh well, you can't do that, or that's not right, or why are you doing this, then it's really difficult to rebuild a life. That's why it's so important to not do it externally. Everybody has opinions and everybody does it different, and unfortunately in this day and age, right now in the world, especially with how active social media is, it's almost not allowed to have opinions. If you don't think the way everybody else thinks, then you're wrong. And that's kind of the message that's getting put out into the world. And I am 100% for individuality and expression and difference and openness. And I think we're meant to be that way. And so when you're starting to create and rebuild your life, you can't listen to all the noise outside of you, which is why it starts inside, my friend. And when you know that you've had patterns and experiences that you do not any longer want to continue in the way that they have been, and you're saying, not one more time, like this ends with me, then we have to also show up, and we have to have that strong energy and fortitude and centeredness and groundedness within us to be able to use those words. And that's a difficult journey. But the start is within connection, support, community, and then it starts to grow outward from there. So I hope that helps. Okay, I have one more question, and then I see a question in the chat as well. So here's another write in question. Congratulations on your Soul Talk podcast for 2026. From your first podcast, you spoke of personal responsibility. It is the reason why we don't uh, it is the reason why we do not take personal is the reason we do not take personal responsibility for whatever it is it that our society conveys convenience over effort? Does this convenience instill beliefs and habits that someone else will do it for us when we do not have to take that responsibility? So I think the way that I'm hearing this is, I think we talked about everybody having personal responsibility. Actually, I talked about it today as well, and that there are people that think, no, somebody else should take care of that for me. Maybe it's my parents, maybe it's my community, maybe it's my education system, maybe it's my government, like they should do those things for me. And what I would say is that there are things that happen in this world. We all get dealt a hand, right? We all get our hand dealt to us. And it's how we then deal with that hand that makes a difference. And yes, there are a lot of people that will blame other people and that will shame other people and that will say, well, this happened to me, and so I can't do this, that, or the other. And yet there's so many people that have had so many traumas and so many things that have happened in their life that have chosen something different. And I believe that as long as we are stuck in the energy of blame, we are always giving our power to the person that we are blaming. Okay. So, or the organization or the group. So if you're blaming the education system, so for example, when I was 15 and I couldn't stand school and I didn't like the way that they did it, and I'd already gone through all the classes, and they're like, well, you're just gonna have to do it for 3 more years. I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. So I quit school. And initially I blamed the school, right? Like they should have something for me. And then I realized, you know what? Actually, it's my responsibility. Even though I'm only 15, it's my responsibility to find something different, do something different. And I did. right? If I would have blamed the school, then it would always be their fault. And I could always just be like, see, my life didn't turn out because of this. See, I didn't graduate from high school. So then this is why it happened. And I would stay in that energy and stay entwined in that energy, which feels really, really icky to me. So, absolutely, when we blame other people, organizations, groups, your ex, your church, your whoever it is. Now, that doesn't mean that they might not have done something wrong. They very well could have done something wrong that actually harmed you and hurt you. And you you are not responsible for that, but you are responsible for your healing. You absolutely are responsible for your healing. And if you blame, you give the responsibility for your healing to the person you're blaming. And I never want my healing to be in those people's hands. I hope that answers that question. Great question. All right, we've got a couple more. Okay, I'm in Oregon with family. At the race Saturday night, I felt different as I looked at different faces from my son's past relationships. I mentioned to my son, and he said, "Mom, you weren't shining fucking bright." They appeared to have the resting bitch face, which was scary. So I think what you're saying is that you were looking at different people um, in relationships that he had, and you were seeing that they have a different vibration, a different frequency. I guess I'm not sure what your question is. Can you just clarify your question for me, and I'll answer that for you? And then let's see, here's another question. When I call in the energy in the morning, so we're talking about the energy of maintaining our own energy. When I call in the energy in the morning, it feels empty at times. Any tips on how to really, really connect to where you feel protected? And forgive me if you've already discussed this. No, that's a great question. I think that sometimes when you do this consistently, it um you get so used to doing it that you sometimes have a hard time embodying the energy. So what I would say is bring in your physical body into it. Maybe you actually literally step into that blue bubble. Maybe you use a spray of some kind that brings in your senses. We do this a lot with kids too, and we're trying to help the kids learn more about their intuitive abilities and tap into the energy. They need something physical to be able to really have a connection to it. And so something like that might help as well, so that you can actually embody that energy. And I also think, here's the honest truth, is that there are times when our energy really is just not as connected, and does feel a little more empty. And so we can just acknowledge that today is one of those days. I just feel a little more empty. I feel a little more disconnected, and and do your best to connect then throughout the day in different ways. Maybe you take a 5-minute break and you do a short little meditation. But most of the time, that's because we're not embodying it. That's why you don't feel it. So bring that into the body connection. I hope that that helps. Um, I don't like Okay, yeah, the gal that had asked that question, has left, so I don't know. I can't really tell what that question was. Um, but I think that maybe it is that there were people that kind of from the past that you saw from a different perspective than you did when you experienced them in the past. That maybe you saw some negativity that's in them. Let's see, I showed up very friendly, but didn't receive it back. So I became an introvert and didn't engage. Okay. So the people that were there showed up and they acted or showed up in a certain way. And then you shut down because they didn't respond to you in a higher frequency or in a higher energy. And that didn't feel good. It felt uncomfortable and didn't feel safe, I think is what I'm getting. And so here's the thing. We don't want to change who we are for the people in front of us. We don't want to change to make them more comfortable or less comfortable. We really want to honor ourselves. Now, that does not mean that in our human existence that we are going to have times where we do need to show up in a particular way, but not a way that is inauthentic. And so if you are naturally somebody that's outgoing and bubbly, and there are people around you that are like looking at you like with the resting bitch face, then that's their problem. Don't let that change who you are, because you're there to bring light. You're there to bring sunshine. And if people question it, if people are like, I don't know what she's so excited about or what's going on with her, then let them be there. Don't change you for others. And especially if you're bringing light. Friends, we need light in this world. We need to channel the light. We need to bring the light. We need to be the lighthouses. Do not let them take that from you. So if they are there, you go, oh, they must really need it then. And the more they are uncomfortable with it, the more you just shine, not to piss them off, but to remind them that there is light when they're ready. And they might not ever be ready, and that's okay too. But here's the thing I think about when I think about the light. The sun always shines. Even if there's clouds down here, even if it's raining, the sun is above it. It always is. It never goes anywhere. The sun doesn't change its mind on what it's going to do based on if clouds come or not. It just continues to shine its light without any change at all to what's seemingly affecting it. That's what we do. All right. Great, great questions. Thank you, friends, for your beautiful questions. I loved all of them. As we come to a close today, I want to take a moment and thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being present. Thank you for caring. Thank you for showing up. We are here every Tuesday, same time, same place. And I hope that you remember that when we allow our divinity to guide our humanity, love becomes something that we live every day, and that you're not alone, and you're never alone. If you enjoyed this podcast, I would love for you to help us spread the word. Like, share, subscribe to YouTube, Spotify, Apple iTunes. Spread the word, share it on social media. We appreciate your love. We appreciate your support. And we look forward to next week at the same time and the same place. Thank you, friends, so much. Have a beautiful rest of your day.
No self-service. That's the way. Welcome to Soul Talk. Shine today.